Friday night, almost 9 o'clock. You're looking at Noonki, in Sagittarius, brightest star. I've mucked around as I usually do with the picture adjust settings. I've set the sharpness a little lower, and I've boosted the contrast is a little bit lower than it was. What I plan to do is leave them like this. I'm still going to get color of the right hue. I'm going to leave them like this and only adjust the display parameters and see what effect that has. Because I want to be able to, in real time, easily adjust the display characteristics in the future. So that's the plan for this evening. Now I'm not sure if I'm going to run through the NGC catalog or not. It may be still too far to the east to get good sky position. So I may go ahead and just review a few faint galaxies and some nebulae. The sky is passable, not impressive. Still a lot of water vapor. The sky never got blue. We'll see how it does as we progress through the evening. This video may or may not be posted up. It may just be historic reference for me in the future. Okay, let's get started. It's now 9 o'clock, almost spot on. I've given it about 10 seconds for the dumbbell nebula to generate on the screen. We'll watch it develop a little bit. I want to get a better sense of when sky dark occurs. And the first thing I want to look for is when the 14.1 magnitude central star turns up. It may be hinting at it now, but I would not call it definitive as of yet. I've parked the dumbbell almost slightly lower than the middle of the screen. It's not the highest contrast area, but it's in the middle of the middle bar. So it should give a pretty good view across its 8 arc minutes of length. So that's our initial view. And I think I've been running for at least 30 seconds now, giving it enough time to generate it. So it's now 9:02. I'll give you about a 10-second view of the dumbbell. I do believe the central star at magnitude 14.1 is now visible. 9:03 and 15 seconds. We're looking for the frontier to the 2 and the 7 o'clock positions to begin revealing themselves. 9:04 and 15 seconds. Couldn't tell you what's on the screen. I'm not in a good position to see it. 9:05. I'm going to take a look at the screen to see if I can make anything out. There are hints of the football, but it is not definitive. We'll go one more time at a little after 9:06, and that will be our last test for this evening. 9:06, our last look for the time being, after which I might try to turn up a galaxy. I think 6640 is a good choice. And so here, have a look for that frontier. And let's see if I can turn up that 14th magnitude plus galaxy. It's now 9:07:30. We're looking for a NGC 6740. It's a 15th magnitude sub-arc minute nearly face-on galaxy in Lyra. I'm going to give it about 20 more seconds to form because previously we were at the dumbbell, so it had already fully compiled on the screen. (9:08:15), and I'm going to sign off for the time being. NGC 6745 is a galaxy in Lyra. I'll tell you my sign-off time. It's magnitude 13.5. It's a near edge-on, 1.3 by 0.5 arc minutes, 208 million light years distant, and it's at almost 41 degrees. Both this and 6740 We're both in the middle, very much approaching the zenith. So let me give you a time stamp on that one. We've been looking at it for about 30 seconds. It's now 10 minutes after 9 o'clock. Here we have the Lagoon Nebula, Messier 8, and I am liking the results already. This is a pretty decent view. The settings I set up look very promising, especially given the fact we're deeper south now. The sky is less than ideal, but we're getting plenty of color, definition in the dark nebulosity, in the Lagoon Nebula. Very impressive, and it came up very quickly too. I'm beginning to warm to these settings. Here, let's watch as Messier 16 takes form on the screen. Pretty sure this is one that doesn't quite regularly turn up, so if we get any sense of nebulosity, let's see, Messier 16, I am seeing color on the screen. Let me give you the spec on it. As you watch, nebula in Serpens, magnitude 6, 30 by 40, 7,000 light years distant, minus almost 14 degrees declination. And it is a little post-culmination. Oh, come on, what is this? Is this the Eagle? Could very well be the Eagle Nebula. And that's a right fine look, if indeed it is. We can go now to M17, which I know is the Swan. What I'd like to see on the Swan, Messier 17, is that I don't want to see the light over bright on the screen. If you set the set points too high, you really just get you get no sense of texture in the Swan's body itself. Here, however, seems to be a pretty good view. And the time now is almost quarter after 9 o'clock. Pretty sweet. We will have a look at Messier 20 takes form on the screen. Very nice. Trifid Nebula. We'll give it a chance to fully take form. Okay, now we're going to generate an image of NGC 6888, and anyone who's been following this series knows this to be the Crescent Nebula, which is right along the cross, the vertical cross of the Northern Cross in Cygnus. Kind of seeing it up towards the top, so it's not exactly centering where I expected it to center. However, this gives us an opportunity to determine how much of the nebulosity extends down into the high contrast region of the screen. One thing I'm looking for here is a lot of pixelation, which I don't think is obnoxiously present. Okay, we're going to make one more trip up to 6740 and 6745, those galaxies, 1/15th magnitude, and the other 13.5, a nice edgy galaxy, and the other one face on. Okay, one way to make out faint fuzzies during real-time imaging, as you may know, is to watch the stars take form very rapidly. But then what you'll happen to see is something faint and somewhat nebulous around the edges begin to take form slowly until it brightens up. Typically, it takes about 40 seconds. And I initiated this imaging sequence you're seeing here pretty much as soon as the trails of stars diminished to points. So here we go, we're watching this thing develop. I'll tell you about the galaxy once again for the record as you watch it develop. NGC 6740 is a galaxy in Lyra, magnitude 15. 0.9 by 0.8 arc minutes. It's a spiral with a ring. Seeing the ring is very impressive because a ring and a face on galaxy is like probably 4 magnitudes fainter. I wouldn't expect to see it except for maybe one little faint bright patch of a hydrogen H2 region in the spiral arm that basically gets wrapped around the galactic core under the rotation of the galaxy. So I think I've given us enough time to see this one generate. The idea that comes to mind here is to do a little preview of NGCs in the 7050 to 7099 series. They are not anywhere particularly close. I would say some 30 degrees shy east of culminating. So the views we get here are not going to prove definitive. However, I do believe I'm seeing this galaxy. It's NGC 7051 Galaxy in Aquarius, magnitude 14, 1.4 by 1.1 arc minutes in size. A spiral with lowercase a, 111 million light years distant, minus almost 9 degrees. Now, I'm pretty sure I'm seeing it there on the screen in that location. So actually, that's a pretty good view for a magnitude 14 galaxy that is actually not culminating at this point. The problem of right ascension being somewhat to the east is not so problematic when we're further north, as in NGC 7052, a galaxy in Vulpecula, magnitude 12.4, 2.5 by 1.5 arc minutes. It's a football-shaped elliptical, 225 million light years distant, and almost 26.5 degrees north declination. Should be an easy find on the screen. We're going to let you watch this galaxy form. It's interesting because it's outside the sky's middle third in Aquarius. I'll give you the data on NGC 7065 momentarily. And the reason I picked it up is because it's the same magnitude as the Galaxy 6740. So it would be a nice way to compare two studies some 30 degrees apart with one, this latter one, in a less advantaged sky position. I think it was 7065. Let me check that out because I was talking to you. I only have so much memory because there's only so much oxygen in the air for the brain. Interesting thing, isn't it? Amount of oxygen in the air help limits your abilities for memory, etc. It is 7065, Galaxy in Aquarius, magnitude 15, almost, but slightly larger than 6740 at 1.1 by 0.9 arc minutes. However, it's 336 million light years distant, which means it's roughly of the size of the Great Andromeda Galaxy. It's a spiral with a large bar, lowercase ab, some minus 7 degrees declination. Did you see it form on the screen? I wasn't looking. There we go. Of course, we want to have a look at one of the Northern Hemisphere's finer globular cluster. NGC 7078, Messier 15 in Pegasus. I'll give you the data on it. As you watch it form on the screen, obviously quite large. Core is completely overwhelmed with brightness. Stars are spreading out, I would say, at least 10 arc minutes across the field. NGC 7078, globular cluster in Pegasus, is Messier 15, magnitude 6.8, so it's about a half a magnitude fainter than Messier 13, which is, in my estimation, the finest along with Messier 22. It's 12.3 arc minutes in size. The brightest stars are 12.6. It's a class 4, which means it tilts toward the more condensed globular clusters, 33,000 light years distant. So it's about 7,000 light years further away than Messier 13, but its size wouldn't swell that much. It would still be smaller in terms of absolute diameter, plus 12 degrees declination. And we're operating now at 21 hour and almost 30 minutes. I'm tempted to carpe noctem out on this, However, I might like to see what else might be in the 7050 series before we knock off. You're going to want to watch this one form on the screen. It's a 15th magnitude galaxy, almost edge on. It'll be very interesting to see this, and I'll give you a spec and explain it in a second. NGC 7085. Here we go. NGC 7085 is a galaxy of Pegasus. Magnitude 15.2, 1 by 0.4 arc minutes, which means it's a slightly larger than the Edge-on spiral, tilting towards an oblate. Spiral with a lowercase b. 381 million light years distance, so about the size of the Andromeda Galaxy, 150,000 light years across, at 6.5 degrees, declination in positive direction. So, I suspect that were it not for the moon in the next couple of days, and so if I have a good night tomorrow, I will be out to do the 7050 series if I'm getting fairly decent views of these studies when I review them. Mañana. Carpe.